Good evening and welcome to our March 4th board meeting. I call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. You may be seated. Next item on the agenda is our roll call. Maricela, would you please perform our roll call for this evening's meeting?
Thank you, Madam President. Roll call for this evening's regular meeting, March 4th, 2024. I will begin with Ms. Victoria Castro Corral.
Present.
Mr. Michael Butts.
Present.
Dr. Ashley Hodge.
Here.
Dr. Megan Frankowitz.
Here.
And Ms. Tatiana Peña.
Here.
Madam President, we do have a quorum present for this evening's regular meeting.
Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is 1.04. Recommend that the governing board adopt the agenda. Items on the consent agenda may be pulled and discussed by board during the meeting. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda items as presented?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. The next item on the agenda is item 1.05. Recommend that the governing board approve the minutes held on January 7th, 2025 and January 21st, 2025. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is student outcome focused governance. And I will ground us in our work. In 2023, the board embarked on a journey to align our framework at the board level with the incredible work that happens every day in the classroom with our students at the center. The entire RSD board is committed to engaging our South Phoenix community and gathering meaningful insight. Our RSD vision is a community united to create better futures for all through education. And student outcome focused governance is improving student achievement and success through research-based policy making and decisions to increase learning outcomes based on the community's values and visions for the district. The school board will set the goals and the guardrails for reaching that vision. In short, student outcome focused governance means that the board puts student outcomes and success first in every decision that we make. Through this framework, we have adopted board behaviors that emphasizes synergy and teamwork to define our vision and goals. This approach helps us set clear targets for student outcomes, establish core values to identify our non-negotiables, and implement measures for progress and accountability to monitor where we are and where we're headed. Our ultimate aim is to enhance student success. Achieving these goals requires effective systems and processes, as well as your voice, advocacy, and encouragement or engagement. So student-focused outcome governance and actions means that 60% of our board time is spent on student outcomes. It adopts a budget. We adopt a budget that prioritizes goals and guardrails. The superintendent's evaluation is focused on adopted goals and guardrails. Board conduct is rooted in guardrails, the RSD community collaboration and collective vision, and our increased two-way communication regarding goals and guardrails. Alignment from the classroom to the living room. And here are the goals that we adopted, 45 and 5. The first goal is the percent of fourth grade students that score meets grade level or above on the AASA ELA will increase from 20% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. The second goal, the percent of fifth grade students that score meets grade level or above on the AASA math will increase from 11% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. The third goal is the percent of seventh grade students that score meets grade level or above on the AASA ELA will increase from 22% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. And the fourth goal is the percent of eighth grade students that meet grade level or above on the AASA math will increase from 12% on August 23rd to 45% by August 2028. In our board guardrails, guardrail number 1 is a healthy board conduct and discourse. Guardrail number 2 is our board operating procedures. Guardrail number 3 is student outcomes focused decision making. Guardrail number 4 is financial integrity, and guardrail number 5 is community engagement. And this is how we decided that we were going to govern ourselves. And the superintendent has guardrails as well. Guardrail number 1, in attaining the board student outcome goals, the superintendent shall not go without proactively sharing updates and plans on the budget or enrollment that will change the current landscape and stability of our district to stakeholders, including board members, students, parents, staff, and community members. Guardrail number 2, in attaining the board's student outcome goals, the superintendent shall not fail to consider the climate survey results to ensure a holistic approach to student development, addressing academic, social, emotional, and physical well-being, which includes after-school programming and wraparound services. Guardrail number 3, in obtaining the board student outcome goals, the superintendent shall not allocate district budget resources in a manner that does not prioritize and support student outcome focused goals, ensuring that financial decisions directly contribute to the academic and developmental success of all students. Guardrail number 4. In obtaining the board's student outcome goals, the superintendent shall not fail to implement and maintain effective strategies for the retention and development of teachers, including promoting from within to ensure they have a positive impact on students as evidenced by data. And the final guardrail for our superintendent, in attaining the board student outcome goals, the superintendent shall not fail to ensure progress towards exiting ATSI and CSI status, which ensures that students with special needs and English learners and African Americans receive equitable access to high quality instruction, resources, and support services tailored to their unique needs to promote their academic success and overall development. As a parent, student, community member, or part of our staff, you can always join our board meetings on the first Tuesday of the month. And then we also have a study session on the 18th of this month. You can share your feedback, give us your voice, hold us accountable to the goals and guardrails, and build a partnership and collaboration that helps us move our students forward. And the next item on our agenda is item 2.02, goal number 4, and interim goals 4.1 and 4.2. And so we will now have a presentation on the eighth grade students that score at proficiency or above on the AASA math will increase from 12% on August 2023 to 45% by August 2028. And we will also review the interim goals. 4.1 and 4.2. The interim goals are goals designed to measure progress towards our board academics. It is the board's responsibility to submit questions to the administrative team prior to the board meeting to ensure that the team has time to answer the questions, but there will also be questions that were not sent to administration asked during this portion of the meeting. And with that being said, I'll pass it to Dr. Portillo.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, executive team, and Roosevelt community. I'd like to call to the podium Mr. Nick Oviedo, who will present to us the data.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Portillo, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Battle, and executive team. Thank you for having me here for our Goal 4 report. I also, once again, have Miss Sousa who has, oh, and Miss Sander too. All right. So I have some backup today as well on the teaching and learning side and project momentum side. So thank you to them. They've been a big help over the last couple of reports. So now we have gone through all of our goals and are back at goal 4 for the second time. I mentioned this when we did the first goal 4 target report, that I felt that this was going to be the most difficult to accomplish of the 4, just that 8th grade math getting to 45% would be the most challenging. It's also where we were starting from the lowest baseline number. I just want to make one small reminder that the original goals were based on non-FAE goals. So we have 12% for August 23, and that's why we're tracking, though, based on FAE, which stands for full academic year. So we're tracking students who were with us for the full academic year when we're talking about percentages. That's why there's just a slight variance there from the chart and from our baseline number. Okay, so we also on our report have added 8th grade STAR math proficiency. It was our intention to try to have these overlay on the graph, but when we did the STAR math proficiency and ASA, it just looked a little too convoluted. It looked a little messy. So we have it here in a table. And you can see this is over the last 2 years that our students have been taking the STAR math proficiency test. And again, STAR math is meant to not necessarily mimic, but be a projector of success on AASA. So for example, you can see that in the spring of 24, our students were at 16% proficiency, which is pretty much right in line with the 15.1% proficiency they had on ASA. So in that sense, it was very aligned, a good indicator of where we would expect to be, which is why I had put for our headline that our current proficiency projection is 18% based on where our students are in the winter and the growth that 8th graders made from winter to spring last year. But the goal is 22%. And so just to put it out there very clearly, that would put us not on track to meet this goal. I do want to say, though, that 8th grade math has been a success. We've made steady growth from 21 to 24, and each year on 8th grade STAR, we see a lot of proficiency change and growth average, which I'll share with you.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So again, we just want to emphasize that though we are not projected to reach our goal, we're not on track, we still are projected to increase to around 18%. So that's also a celebration. We want to continue to support our staff and celebrate that they are moving our students forward, and our students are also working hard, but we are not increasing at a fast enough rate to reach that 22%.
Okay, so page 2, we typically look at, we had been previously looking at AASA data. Now we have a more updated benchmark data in our STAR Math Winter. So this is each school, we have their fall proficiency. And this was actually a good question that I got from Magali. When we say fall, or when STAR actually, Renaissance says fall, that means our beginning of the year testing. So fall is our August testing that usually happens in the first couple of weeks. Winter is our December testing. This is Renaissance lingo. We can change it to say whatever we want, but August, this is December. And then when we talk about spring data, we're talking about end of year data, which is the beginning of May. So what you're looking at is what 8th grade students did on the fall or August assessment compared to the winter assessment, and then the growth average. And I've really been trying to figure out the simplest way to talk about growth. We made a little bit at the bottom of the page. You'll see I have kind of a glossary there for growth average. So growth average is the average, all of the students' SGP, their student growth percentile combined, the average of all of their SGPs. And 50 would be meaning that out of the students in their peer group that they're making growth relative to 50 out of 100 students. So the higher number, the better. I've heard it said that like speed, thinking about like a car driving down the highway, if 50 is the speed limit, 68 is going really fast. It's a good thing in this analogy. So TG bar with a growth average of 68 is a very high number. That would mean that students are making more than a year's worth of growth. Renaissance would say that 50 to 53 is about a year's worth of growth. Next, the student population proficiency, and we got some questions about this and about on the cusp students too, which I can get back to. So there were questions, obviously, what stands out is the 0% numbers that we have. But again, those are really low data sample sizes. So for instance, with the American Indian or Alaskan Native students, if you even have 1 out of 8, now you're at 12.5%. So there's going to be big swings with those groups of students. And in fact, there was one student, I went and looked this up, that was really close to being at proficiency and had been at proficiency on the November progress monitoring. So we're really close to seeing that number be at 12.5%. Not to say that there's not work to be done in all of our student populations, but again, with our low sample sizes, it's hard to make kind of big picture next steps or analysis based on that. I do think that we do have a very large sample size, obviously, in our female and male, and that was something that actually stood out to me the most, that our boys, 8th grade boys, came in higher in terms of proficiency and are actually outpacing females. If you look at the growth average, 53 to 47. So out of that page, that was something that stood out to me. And then again, as always, I do a little bit of my own flavor on this bottom table. And so I chose 7th grade math here, just thinking about the idea that if we are going to get to 45% by 2028, 6th and 7th grade are going to have to be really good so that when students get to 8th grade, they are not so far behind that even a good 8th grade student wouldn't be able to catch them up. So looking at 7th grade as well, these are some of our top 4 schools in terms of growth average. And you can also see some really significant swings in fall or beginning of the year to mid-year proficiency. Greenfield stood out to me, 14% to 35%. And then the district-wide growth average of 49, and just to note that 8th grade was at 50. Board Member Frankwitz asked about students who are on the cusp. So we're at 12.5% for 8th grade, kind of based on the calculation of what on the cusp, meaning students who are really close, partially proficient, some of our higher partially proficient students, that was about another 9.5% of students. So somewhere around 21% I thought would be a very best case scenario for AASA proficiency. Actually, that 22%, excuse me, which is in fact our goal. And then finally, I just wanted to note too that out of the students who weren't at proficiency, 30% of those students made what we would call high growth with an SGP number of 65 or higher. So definitely some good celebrations in 8th grade math. Page 3, our interim goals. You've heard me at this point talk about this quite a bit now. Our 5th grade student cohort came into the year slightly behind their last year peers. So Will Argeros in community engagement did a really nice job of this design here. What we have is in the gray, we're last year's cohort. In the green is what's happening this year. And then you can see that in relation to our goal. So we wanted 30% of our students to be at proficiency in 5th grade. We have moved that proficiency number from 15.9% to 18.9%. For interim goal number 2, it's to increase to 25% with our 6th grade math students. And this is where we're seeing a lot of progress and a high growth average. 6th grade has the highest growth average out of all grade levels for math. And actually, our students just took February progress monitoring. Obviously, that just wrapped up. And 6th graders are now at 21% for proficiency with a growth score of 53. So 6th grade has our highest growth, and thus it would be no surprise that that we're seeing more and more students creeping over that proficiency line. And you can see there too that that's pretty well above where our sixth graders were at this point last year.
So I just want to pause there that with that sixth grade, we are on track to meet our end of year goal, which means that that sets us up even better for seventh grade for next year, right? And then better for eighth grade. So I know some of your questions were about summer professional development, so we'll get to those at the end. But yeah, that's something that we're really excited about, that we're starting to turn this or starting to flip, and hopefully still be, not hopefully, we will be on track.
Thank you. So this fourth page, we look at some of our combined scores across all of our upper grades. This is, especially for fourth through eighth, right now is important to look at, as fourth through eighth makes up and we talked about this with the principals and instructional coaches as well. Fourth through eighth makes up a big chunk of our report card score and our letter grade. So just as a reminder, we looked at the report card formula very briefly back in January, and the 50% growth score is all fourth through eighth grade students, because it's students who have had to take the ASA and then comparing their growth to the next year. So looking at fourth through eighth grade, especially in the next couple of weeks, and helping students to prepare for ASA will be very important. And when we look at fourth through eighth grade, what I think is different than just looking at one grade level, a lot of our schools, it's one teacher who teaches eighth grade math. So when we're looking at that, sometimes it can say a lot about the teacher. Fourth through eighth grade, this is going to look more largely at the health of the school systems. Obviously, also the teachers are a big part of that, the primary part. But this does give us a lens to some of the comprehensive school systems and the vertical articulation that we would want to see happening at schools. So again, we have their proficiency rate for Star Winter and their growth average by school. And then finally, at the bottom is some of our next steps and what is working. And Dr. Portillo, if you would like to take it over there to start, and I can also be happy to chime in.
Thank you. Thank you. And also, of course, I'll invite Dr. Battle and Ms. Gaston or any of the executive team members to also chime in. But one of the things that we do see as working is that we continue to, as we do our district learning walks, continue to see that increased use of our adopted curriculum. And we know that we've spent some significant resources in helping our teachers understand how to use that curriculum. As we plan for the action plan section for this summer professional development, if you don't mind going up just a little bit, the other direction, there you go. As we plan for this summer's professional development, we're going to expand the focus of our math teachers, specifically professional development, to not only be focused on the curriculum materials, but also focused on helping them to improve the mathematical instructional strategies, math content, and being able to break down the essential standards, but then also on building relationships and classroom management. So we're going to continue to pour into our teachers through the summer professional development work. And now if you can make it small again, thank you. Something else that we see as working is, again, through our district learning walk, is that we do see more and more teachers keeping on pace. And that's important because we don't want to end up having gaps in our students' learning. And the last thing is we do see our teachers continuing to use those early release Wednesdays for work with their PLTs to create their math units. This year, we moved away from having district directed professional development on early release Wednesdays to really focusing that time more so the ones that are negotiated. There's some that are negotiated with our teachers union to be our employee association to be used for other things related to teacher preparation and work. But the ones that are left, we decided to focus all of those on really focusing teachers on PLT work. So we see that that those days are being used for that purpose. Pivot points. So one of the things that we need to do this summer is revise the pacing guide. because we want to make sure that it's better aligned with the AASA blueprint, and then also with the essential standards that'll be released from ADE. Another thing with that pacing guide work is that we're going to be rolling out a job description so that we're ensuring that we have the best, most qualified teachers working on those pacing guides this summer. So they'll be invited to apply for that. Also, as we are working with our budget and ensuring that we're being very thoughtful with the use of the limited resources that we do have, we're adding an additional math coach at the higher level math so that we can have one that focuses on more conceptual understandings at lower level, and then our higher level upper grade math coaches that will be supporting then our coaches on the campuses and our administrators and the rest of the teachers in being able to increase our students, our instruction, and therefore increasing our students' growth. One of the things under the leadership of Dr. Battle that we're doing is we are ensuring that we have more consistent master schedule across our campuses and also departmentalization. And I'll turn it over to her so she can explain a little bit more about that work.
Governing Board President Hodge, Dr. Hodge, and board members, executive team. I just want to make sure I commend our teaching and learning team and their efforts, as we've been very thoughtful, and we're running fast and furious, but very thoughtful and targeted in our area of improvement, which means our resources. So our master schedule has to have the structure in which we can find success, and that we can take a look at our data and our instructional strategies and all to say what research says, the value of the master schedule. I want to commend our principals too, as they've had input into what that's going to look like, and their commitment in advance to adhering to what we all have decided is going to be exciting. So the master schedule has been put in place. We've got another principals meeting on Thursday. Ms. Getson and her support is immense, that we're going to continue to build upon it. We've had some meetings today. It's on a different topic called ELA. But we look forward to utilizing that master schedule in a way that will sustain any kind of challenges, as well as building micro schedules within it and really being instrumental towards improving our instructional strategies, but also our student achievement.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. And also through that master schedule, what it'll allow is consistent departmentalization, which will then, from 5th grade through 8th grade, which will then help us to support our teachers in becoming more experts in less content areas, right? So that they can develop their skills and have less to plan for, but planning more deeply to ensure that our students are learning at high levels. And then also we're going to be working with our principals and our TNL division so that we have more intentional planning across our campuses for all of our math teachers to be able to better collaborate with people that are doing the same work that they're doing. Another highlight that I wanted to point out is on the up a little bit so I can see better. Thank you. There we go. Is as we're thinking about what needs more attention, we know that we need to work more closely with our instructional coaches to empower the teachers. So we want to empower the teachers to be okay with seeing the kids have this productive struggle with mathematics, and that actually deepens their understanding of math, knowing that we have to balance that. There has to be some facts practice, right? And kids do need to become automated with some of those basic facts, but we also want to move away from only presenting algorithms or having our teachers do the majority of the work and really allowing our students to productively struggle. Is there anything else you think you'd like to add?
What I failed to mention, thank you, Dr. Portillo, is that we increased the time on math. So we're looking at 90 minutes more, so that there would be a continuous effort to ensure that we're not only utilizing Tier 1 very effectively, but we can identify the students that are going to need intervention in a timely manner, hopefully that same day. But that'll also give students an opportunity to engage more. I appreciate what Mr. Oviedo and team have done, is as they've gone out to take a look at teachers' performances that are doing well. And within that time, then we can share with our teachers how to implement those strategies with support. The learning walks from the site, as well as what we're doing as the exec team, will be the telltale. But I'm really excited about the additional time that everyone is committed to ensure that we improve our learning performance in math.
I think the last thing to highlight here is in the consent agenda today, you approved the salary schedules and then also the stipend schedules. And it's really important to note, and I'll let our HR Executive Director talk a little bit more about it, Ms. Chanel Alexander, but it's really important to note that we are being very intentional of investing our money in making sure that we're attracting and retaining the most qualified staff. And specifically to math, I'll turn it over to her so she can share about that.
Good evening, Board President Hodge, members of the board, community, and exec team. Thank you so much. As Dr. Portillo mentioned, on our board agenda tonight, we have several salary schedules that we're presenting to you for approval, including a stipend schedule. Specifically, they're not only math in our stipend schedule, we're also excited to present to you the opportunity to increase what we offer for our ESS teachers as well. So we've increased that stipend amount to $5,000. We've built an additional $3,600 per cell in our salary schedules with my, without my calculator here, but I look at Matt out of my side eye. I believe that increases our teacher schedules up to about 5% of an increase overall. So yes, big clap for that. And that work has been able to happen through the leadership of our superintendent, you all as the board, and certainly the collaborative efforts that we've had with our REA association. Now, specifically to math, there is a stipend that's there. I know I was supposed to talk about math only, but I got carried away.
Go for it. Go for it. Don't mention science too while we're at it.
Yeah, I got carried away about all the other things that we are wanting you all to look at and improve for us. But again, it brings in a different workforce. It makes us look a little more attractive than other folks who are maybe only looking at one stipend and their stipends are less. We did that work to see, how do we become most competitive and how do we compensate our teachers that are here for the hard work that you all have identified in these academic goals and the support that we're trying to put out there. And we want to be able to compensate as we can. So what we've done for math in particular is look for a way to compensate individuals who maybe come with high school math certification so that we can now start to offer our students algebra and geometry. So that's also on our stipend schedule tonight for approval. We continue to have our reading our reading endorsement offerings, and we looked at science as an approved area. So those are all there for approval tonight that we believe will assist with our pipeline of bringing in great talent in front of our students.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we think about math, not only is our salary schedule now going to be more attractive to be able to attract teachers and retain teachers, but also with that additional stipend, that's in addition to the hard to fill stipend. So they'll receive the hard to fill stipend, which is, remind me? $2,500. And then an additional, if they have the approved area of mathematics, an additional $2,500. So we're hoping that we are able to attract the best teachers. And again, knowing that in a lot of our surveys and as we engage with community, they want the young people to be able to be accelerated also. So we'll be able to offer this summer a summer institute for students that are ready to be accelerated to receive that algebra and geometry, and that's in collaboration with Phoenix Union and Tempe Union High School districts. But also as the year goes on, we'll be able to offer our own courses through our certified teachers and then prepare the students to pass the ADQ test, ADQ. The math equivalency test. Yeah, the math equivalency test, so that not only are they getting exposed to the subjects, but they're actually getting credit. Therefore, they will be able to go into 9th grade at a higher level math. So we're very excited for those changes. I wanted to share some of the questions that were submitted by the board, and thank you for submitting those. And let me see. I want to stop Nick from sharing. Yes. Continue. There we go. So for some of these questions, I'll be leaning in also with Ms. Erica Sander and then Elizabeth Sousa, who will support us with answering some of these questions. The first one was submitted by Ms. Castro Corral. So what is the strategic timeline for monitoring our board goals throughout the year? And how will each month's focus align with specific grade levels and subjects? Um, so we emailed it to you, but also in your documents today is the approved progress monitoring calendar so that you will be able to know. I mean, there's sometimes minor changes that our board president and I might make, but this is the schedule for what we'll be monitoring. And then as we work to support eighth grade students, what strategic partnerships or collaboration efforts exist with Phoenix Union to ensure a smooth transition and continued academic growth for our Roosevelt School District students? So I'll invite Ms. Sanders up to the podium since she is the person that is managing a lot of that work in addition to her other hat with Project Momentum.
Good evening, Governing Board President Dr. Hodge, Governing Board Executive Team. Part of my role this year has been fortunate enough to work with Phoenix Union. As a former middle school principal, it is so imperative that we are helping our students transition to high school. And so we have a very positive, collaborative relationship with Phoenix Union. Part of that, we start actually very early, and I want to say probably September, and we have articulation meetings. So we actually have Phoenix Union and all of their feeder districts come together. And when we first meet, we really talk about the initiatives of Phoenix Union. We talk about what we are working on and so for us, it would be like Project Momentum or big initiatives. We also do a lot of data sharing in our articulation, as well as share events of what is going to help with our promoting eighth graders. So for example, in November, we have the Phoenix Expo. So our students in November get to attend a fair. I think it was at Phoenix College this year. I was able to attend, fortunately, where they get to experience all of the high schools and all of the programs, and they get to learn where they really would flourish. And so we also just actually had our last articulation meeting where we share a lot of data so we can see where our RSD students are attending. We can see how many students are actually going to Cesar Chavez, Betty Fairfax, and even South. And we talk about how can we help promote. So we work very closely with our site principals. We work very closely with our family engagement coordinators to really promote those events and educate our community about how do you register and prepare for being an incoming freshman. Additionally, they share information with us, like we have we're going to start to promote it. It's called the Summer Launch Program through Phoenix Union, where our eighth graders can actually attend in June almost like summer school, and they earn half a credit. So those are great opportunities because then they learn what it's like being in a high school ELA, high school math class, as well as learn about the academies at South Mountain. They get to learn about the different electives as CTE programs and things like that. So we are a very close relationship with our students and our families to see how we can best promote and continue to prepare our kiddos for that eighth grade experience once they leave.
Thank you. And the next question is also submitted by board member Castro Corral. You were kept us on our toes. What are the objectives of the summer intervention program and which grade levels will be targeted? Could this program be strategically designed to not only support struggling students, but also provide opportunities for proficient students to accelerate their learning and exceed academic goals? And I'll pass that one on over to Dr. Battle.
Well, I want to thank Ms. Sander too for her facilitation with the Phoenix Union. And also we've looked into some where our schools have gone without calling them out because we're not marketing for other people. But for the most part, where our kids go, because that's what we want to do is promote programs that will help them to succeed. So many meetings have occurred that allowed us to say, what are we doing to prepare our kids for secondary opportunities, academically, socially, and really having high expectations. So within that, we decided to have an accelerated math academy. And we've identified some of our own teachers that have high school certification. Within that, we know what we can do. With Ms. Gueston's help, we've been really brainstorming some quite innovative strategies that we believe we can use our own staff, but also taking a look at, can we get our kids over to the high school? But if not, we want to have something in the summer that says you are prepped and ready to go. You have at least been exposed to algebra and maybe some kiddos in geometry. And then we'll work with Phoenix as it relates to if they have to take that test or not. So the jury is out there. Ms. Getson and I want to have a meeting with the chief academic officer over there to talk through some of these things. So we want to exhaust all opportunities, but this summer is going to be fulfilled, lots of fun and learning happening at Valley View. So we'll have this math acceleration. Kids will have been exposed and really have gone through a whole A and B. So high school is the A semester and also the B semester all day, and it's free to our babies. So if we have any other kiddos that are not RSD students, there will be a nominal fee. I think we said it's 100, maybe $135 or something along those lines. But if they register with us, then there is free. Hello, how about that? So there's that. But with that said, we believe it's going to be quite attractive. But hearing from our community when we decided to consolidate schools, they talked about what can we do for some of our students that may be ready to go. So this is one strategy for all kids. We're not identifying a certain group of kiddos for that. Then we're also going to have our intervention program also at Valley View. And at Valley View, we'll have our Move On When Reading students that need support there. We're going to continue to work on our EL support in summer as well. We've got to make sure it's at a different time, so we're still working that thing out. And then we're going to identify back to the departmentalization. A summer school teacher doesn't have to be a champion of all things, but they'll teach either math or ELA. And then we'll take a look at our data. We've also taken a look at our ROI from previous summer schools, and we're going to do the same here too. So we're just not about going to school. We want to be high performing students, and we want to improve our craft, and we want to improve our performance through our summer intervention programs. And so number of things. We'll have a nurse. We'll have actually, we hope that you will support, it's a proper word, right? Principal for summer school, and the dean position or lead position is already in place. Thank you very much. And so within that, there's an opportunity to increase leadership capacity. So one of our current APs who's willing to work during that time will be paid accordingly as a principal of summer school. We'll still have our extended, our ESY special ed programs will be on a different campus, but we'll have lots of hustle and bustle over the summer to improve our algebra, hopefully have geometry, and then our regular intervention program students to improve student achievement. So we're really excited about all that work. And again, I would go without saying, a number of people have been sitting in meetings with this lady right here to help us to be able to establish that. And I thank all of them.
Thank you. And that was actually also on the stipend schedule that was approved in the consent agenda today. So thank you for approving that. So we'll be able to run a summer school program that is in only one location, but we'll have a principal, a dean there supporting that work, and then also be able to run it more like regular school, where we'll have regular walkthroughs and ensure that there's high level instruction occurring during the summer as well. Okay. All right. So next question, how are math teachers and math coaches collaborating district-wide to align strategies, share best practices, and ensure that our collective efforts are driving progress towards our board goals? Are there regular opportunities for the entire math department to meet, reflect on data, and adjust strategies to maximize student goals? So as mentioned earlier, as we are planning for next year, we'll be working with our principals and the rest of our TNL division to ensure that there's time set aside for them to come together. So we'll be looking at release times to schedule those.
Just a follow-up question there. When we look at the data from this year and where our math coaches were used, do we have any data that connects back to where we saw the impact?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we weren't tracking it that way in that point, but is there anything that we can speak to around how they were used that correlates back to the data we just saw?
Yeah, so we had one math specialist this year at the district office, and that person also wore many hats. So I think that though they did support our instructional coaches on our campuses, did focus a lot on developing their skills and supporting students and teachers in reading. So what we've learned is, yes, our reading scores have increased, but we now need to make sure that we're pushing into math, and also ensuring that that person has less hats to wear, and that we're really protecting the time that if they're hired to work specifically on developing math skills, that they're hyper focused on that. And that as we are reorganizing our teaching and learning division, we are taking away other responsibilities to ensure that, again, there's a hyper focus moving forward to the next year. But we have seen some results with the increase of use of the math curriculum and that type of thing. Okay, so let's move on. Next question. Oh, submitted by Vice President Frankowitz. So we are currently off track in both goals. How is the superintendent's response measurably different based on this data from our normal coaching and support protocols? How does this connect with what our highest growth scores are doing? So, and you can tag team this one, Dr. Battle. Yeah. And Ms. Sousa, if you can chime in also and add anything that you think that we might have missed. So currently the TNL and data team, data and research team and us are observing the teachers who are gaining the most growth to understand what they're doing differently. What we've noticed is that there's a high level of student engagement during the core math instruction for those teachers that are doing well. So that engagement piece is the reason why that's definitely informing our summer planning. Also, one of the things that you approved on the consent agenda today is the calendar. So the calendar for our returning teachers has been increased by 2 days, and for our new teachers has been increased by 2 days. So rather than offering professional development that is invitation only, this is now they're going to have 2 additional days. Of course, the original increase for the salary schedules was at $3,000 for every cell on the salary schedule. But now that we're adding these 2 additional days, now we increase that to $3,600 to account for those 2 additional days. So all teachers will be compensated. And what we are observing as we're walking through with these high-performing math teachers is just that increased level of student engagement. So again, that'll be reflected in the professional development. Also, we are looking to see which apps are giving the most return on investment. So we have multiple applications that students use on their iPads to support. And what we've seen is that iExcel and Freckle are the ones that are coming up highest. Do you have anything you'd like to add on that?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, executive team, members of the community. When speaking specifically about the teachers that are having the highest growth, they not only have the stronger management as well in their classes so that they can focus less on managing the students and the engagement where it comes naturally to them, but in addition, they also have more years of experience with the curricular resources, which allows them to be able in the moment to think of those interventions or perhaps a different approach to a content or skill area. And that comes with nurturing our new teachers, our start of career teachers, and honoring our veteran teachers as well. To your point, for iExcel and Freckle, we are also launching a survey for our our teachers that have demonstrated the highest growth and proficiency to ask them, if you have this choice of apps, which are you using in your classrooms that is leading to that growth and proficiency in your classes? What do you like about those apps? What do your students like? And that way we can make a more informed decision when we think about renewing or pursuing different digital resources for our teachers and students.
Thank you. And I would like to say that this year, our regular protocol has been our accountability meetings that we have with our school leadership. And I'll allow Dr. Battle to talk about that.
Yes, again, with the support of everyone I'd mentioned earlier and our principals, we've tweaked our questions often because we also want to model that it's not just being stagnant, but what does our data tell us? So we've evolved from last year to this year, and we're making sure that this next one, the principals have received, I believe this week or last week, what to prepare for in those meetings. So the exec team members are present, as well as a few directors, and the principals come with their instructional coach or other members of their instructional cabinet, and they share data as to where they are, what they're doing to make a change. They talk about and give archived data about what supports our goals, these goals, the board goals. And we have some dialogue, and then we ask tough questions of them, what they're going to do differently based on the data that they receive. What are we doing with our instructional strategies to improve our teachers? The accountability talks, is what we call them, have been instrumental as we take that data back and we talk with an executive team. What did we hear? What resources do we need to provide? What types of support will be helpful? How can we tweak this process to develop capacity, but also show more results? I want to commend again, Nick puts a lot of that Anna Speak in action, and I appreciate that. And again, the principals rise to the occasion and come well prepared. Also, what Mr. Oviedo does for those that want to attend is a session to prepare for their presentations and to have them think through their data and what they'd like to present, not just for presentation, but for the leadership of what they need to demonstrate on their sites. Mr. Oviedo, anything else?
Speaking to accountability talks first, I think that what we have really seen is an alignment between what principal sites say they are going to do and then carrying it out and then coming back and showing the progress, the outcomes of that. So I think more than ever that I've seen in the district is sites being aligned on their goals, but also their next steps. And I mentioned this last month, that's why we saw principals really knowledgeable about where people are meant to be on the pacing guide as one of their next steps to make sure that people are staying with the pacing guides. So the data and accountability talks have been helpful for us and I think supportive for the principals.
Thank you. And then the next part of that question is, what is the response to this data in the short term? And Ms. Sousa, if you don't mind coming back up again. So her and her team are developing a short-term professional development structure.
Sure. Well, when it comes to teaching and learning as a whole, we have supports in place for the instructional coaches as well as the teachers. We utilize a platform called Academy of Mind for professional development, which allows us to not only have in-person or even live, but Zoom sessions for professional development, in addition to asynchronous professional development. And through that, we have several courses, not just about our district adopted resources, but also mathematical practices. And then we continue to involve plans moving forward for our pacing guides and essential standards committees, as well as involving the instructional coaches and our district math lead teachers in developing the plan and identifying what supports are most needed for those teachers.
Thank you. And then the next three questions are a little bit more connected with Nick's, Mr. Oviedo's work. So one is, in addition, it's the CUSP question, right, that came up earlier. So I'll let him answer that one first.
Thank you, Board President, members of the board. And I believe that they tie together. So I mentioned very briefly during the report about students that are on the cusp that I would say that are high partially proficient students. Combine that with the percentage of students that we have at proficient, the 12.5% plus the another 9.5% would be 22%. And so that would be thinking about the question about how much proficiency is reasonable to project. I think 22% is absolute best case scenario. So not that I would necessarily, we would be celebrating if on 8th grade math they got to that. And right now we're at 12.5%. And I think just from what we have seen from our 8th grade teachers over the last couple of years that this number goes up. So I would say 12.5% would be a very low projection. And I think that would be very surprising to be somewhere closer to that, which is why I thought 18% as a very reasonable projection for the 8th grade math cohort.
Next question, so technical question. As we think about distance to goal, or is that's kind of summarized with what you said?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that you got these answers as well. So just off of what we had shared, we were able to see the domains. For 8th grade, it's EE, equations and equalities. And then where we saw students in 8th grade struggling was ratios, proportions, percents. And in terms, thank you. In terms of that success or those gaps, I think, again, I go back to just overall, we're seeing schools or teachers that are really successful across the board. Conversely, we're seeing schools, teachers, struggling across all of those. So I say that was one. On our ESSA, where we're seeing our biggest gaps or where we're seeing students who are not successful, it's typically in our non-multiple choice questions. And I know that that's like an age-old story, but our fill in the blank, ASA has these select 2, select 3 answer types. So sometimes it's in the item type that we see for STAR, and especially for ESSA, when you look at that data, that item analysis.
The next question is about which specific domains are relative strengths for us and which ones are relative weaknesses.
Yep. Yeah, that was that one. I answered that.
I'm sorry. All right. So I think that's it for Dr. Frankowitz's questions. Then we have a few that were submitted by Dr. Hodge. So help me understand what was going on at Davis, Chavez, and Conchos this fall and who is growing the most.
Thank you, Board President. Again, the fall assessment, put another way, is our August assessment, our beginning of the year assessment. So they're taking these the first couple of weeks of school, and I read this as primarily indicating that students at these 3 schools started 8th grade behind grade level expectations. So we had students who came into 8th grade low. I'm just going to pull up their numbers too. So I look at Davis really as, and specifically, a success. That's a school that has now 7%, but more importantly, their growth average of 58 is, that's tracking well. And actually, Davis on the most recent February report has an even higher percentage, which we would have expected. I can tell you that real quick. Davis is now at 19% on the February report. So this is one thing that makes our proficiency goals challenging, is that we have students who are potentially coming in low. We have a high student mobility rate. So from one year to the next, the teachers, I guess I just want to take a step back and say that especially since the beginning of the year, it's not an indication of that teacher that year, but we are seeing a lot of growth with that group cohort of students.
And then who is growing the most?
Yes. Okay. According to our STAR data, TG Bar is showing the most growth. If you look at this page 2 at the top, TG Bar has 31% proficient on the winter. Their growth average is 68. That's really, really strong. Again, think about it like speeding at the speed they're going. So we would expect that with that kind of growth average that you would have a higher proficiency rate. And in fact, in February now, our just most recent hot off the press data is that they're at 43% proficiency now. So that's really, really great stuff. 7th grade math, Irene Lopez has a 63 growth average. Again, I mentioned CO Greenfield. They have a high growth average if you're looking at the bottom of page 2. And additionally, Greenfield went from 14% to 35% proficiency. So I see those as some of our biggest success stories in 7th and 8th grade math.
Thank you. And then the other one is, what do we need to know about the American Indian or Alaska Native and our white students?
Yeah, I mentioned this again very briefly in our main report. That certainly, I certainly do get the cause for concern, and that's something to look at. But again, we're looking at a very small sample size, and again, it's students that are spread out across our district. So it's not like it's necessarily happening in one school or in one classroom, but definitely something to monitor.
And proficiency ranges from 11.7 to 29% at schools. What is working and how can we improve at a faster rate?
I don't know if you saw my responses, but isn't that the golden question? Board President, great question. You know, I know that this sounds so, not to oversimplify it, but where we're seeing the most growth or the most proficiency is where we have really strong teachers. And I mentioned the primary indicator of success over all of our different data points that we have is the classroom that the student is in makes such a big difference. And that is something that is known nationally. This is not news. In terms of how can we improve at a faster rate, I just want to commend the superintendent and team. They did not prep me to say this, but the paying our math teachers more, that is going to be huge. The math teachers are like getting a really strong junior high math teacher. It's like a unicorn at the kind of intersection of, we talked about this already, content knowledge and instructional teaching strategies that are effective, and the relationship engagement management side. So it makes me think in baseball of Shohei Ohtani, who can pitch, he can hit. He's like this worldwide phenomenon, and we're looking for one of those in each of our classrooms. Fortunately, we don't have 200 million or whatever he got to make that he makes for that. But to be able to pay our math teachers more, because again, not just here in Roosevelt, but everywhere, desperate for math teachers and ESS teachers. I know Miss Alexander got very excited, but ESS teachers is also going to help our math scores additionally. So it is connected in line. I thought very appropriate to be excited about that. Again, Board President, in all seriousness, that's I think the most important in 7th and 8th grade math. The content is challenging. The students, let's just face it, can be challenging. There's a lot. There's just a lot of value in a really good junior high math teacher, ELA teacher, of course, science teacher too. But where we're seeing it in 3 schools in particular that we went and viewed have all of those 3 things, and in classrooms where we're not seeing as much growth, it's even I went to 3 different schools where we're not seeing substantial growth, and they were good teachers who were missing even just one of those things. I saw one where they were just missing the content knowledge. There was one where it was missing the instructional strategies, and one where it wasn't the relationship as much. I mean, these were still very strong teachers. We've got really good junior high teachers across the district, which is what makes it so challenging, that to have all 3 of those attributes. And additionally, the professional development that the superintendent, deputy superintendent have planned for the summer is hitting all of those things that are in the teaching and learning piece. So being able to recruit and retain teachers and develop them is going to be where we're going to see success.
Yeah. Madam President, governing board members, community and exec team, also, again, just right hot off the press, Ms. Getson and I had an opportunity to talk yesterday, that was Monday, about some strategies to develop our new teachers and staff. I'm going to put her on the spot a little bit. Can you share and unpack a little bit of how we're going to help support our new teachers with your content coaches for next year?
Good evening, Madam President, members of the governing board, exec team, and community. This is very late breaking news. But what we want to make sure that we're doing is developing a model for new teacher support that allows our content specialists at the district to be able to push in more directly with teachers who are teaching that content. So for our math coaches to play a role in the new teacher coaching and support of new math teachers in the district. And that's certainly going to be easier when we have that departmentalization from fifth grade on up in order to really help them, not just math, but in all the core content areas. So that's where we're headed, and we have a lot of fun work ahead in terms of developing out what that's going to look like for our district.
Thank you very much. And then lastly, I would say we did a little trial in our teaching and learning meeting with a device that we are going to utilize to share our talents across the district, and it's a swivel device. And so a teacher can teach in a class and see the students, but so can another teacher. Those can be recorded, so we can archive good lessons, and especially our new teachers, then you just get to do what this great teacher's already doing too. This young man told me all the time about golfers are just good, or the quarterback is just good. Well, I want everybody to be good. And so this tool will help us to be able to offer classes that some campuses may not offer, but it's just a matter in selective and creative scheduling, as well as taking a look at this device. I think is going to be really instrumental to increase our strategies in the classroom.
And I think overall, pouring into all of our teachers, right? Because even though they're not teaching upper grade math, which is what today's presentation focused on, it's important that we pour into them, that we develop them, and retain them, because we're investing a lot of resources into them, and they're also connecting and making relationships with our South Phoenix students. So we want to keep them here. And again, the increase in the salary schedule is one way. We know that money is not going to be everything, but being able to increase into the salary schedule, and again, I want to thank REA for their support in those negotiations, but being able to increase by about 5% when you consider the amount. It depends on how much that person is earning, right? Because it's a percentage of that. But for us to be able to increase the salary schedule by $3,600 per cell, that's a huge accomplishment, especially given the times that we're in and the fact that not very long ago we were having discussions about the finances that we're in, right? The situation that we're in. So just reallocating our resources in that way is going to be something that's going to make an incredible difference. I know that our CFO, Mr. Gonzalez, has also been working hard to ensure that we're being competitive and that we're also staying within the guardrail of not overspending. Correct? So one of the things that I wanted to mention, and he can probably add a little bit more color to this, is that within our salary schedule, we had a number of people that were off the salary schedule. But with the increase that we were able to make, the majority of the teachers, I believe he can offer a little bit more detail of how many will be left. But since we have made the amount of increase that we've been able to create to all of the cells on the salary schedule, we've been able to suck up most of the teachers that were off of the salary scale. So as we move forward, then we'll be able to remedy this issue of having so many people off the salary scale. And as we move forward giving increases, then since just about everybody will be on the salary scale now, then we'll be able to continuously give increases to everyone. Mr. Gonzalez, can you explain that a little bit more, how we're able to suck them up into the salary scale?
Yes, ma'am. Madam President, governing board members, the increase of 3,600 pushed. We had, I want to say, about 30, 40 teachers that we were paying them off of scale or schedule. So even though we said a maximum pay rate would be 62,000 or whatever for a bachelor's teacher, we were paying them 63, 64, 65,000. So we've been just kind of accumulating these people that are off schedule. The increases we did into this year and the increase we're doing into next year now places all teachers but one in the schedule. So everyone's now within our boxed schedule that you guys are approving tonight. So the increases that teachers get predominantly is $3,600. However, if you were off schedule, we're not increasing you further than that because again, you're back off schedule. So we're keeping you wherever you're at. So if you're a little bit off schedule, you're going to get most of that money. If you're pretty far off schedule, you only get a little bit of that money. The lowest amount that I saw, again, except for one teacher, is $850. So the lowest amount will be $850, and that's a handful. And then everyone else will get above, going stepping up from there. There was a handful at 1,300, and then that was 9. So I believe it was 5 people were 850, 4 people were 1,350. Everybody else is getting a minimum $2,000. So it's just about everyone in the district is getting, or everyone in the district is getting above that 850, except the one, all the teachers in the district. But yeah, so we're pushing them all into the schedule, and it alleviates this problem in the future, ideally.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. And I would say that the biggest thing that is helping is outcomes-focused governance. So having the board focus on outcomes aligns us to focus on outcomes, aligns our teaching and learning division to experience the reorg that we're working towards for next year, aligns our principals and the work that they're doing to focus on outcomes-focused governance. And it really has changed a lot of the conversations we're having as an executive team. And has forced us to ensure that we keep the most important thing as we are doing our planning. So as you noticed in all of our divisions, it's all focused towards the same goal. So we're not working in silos, we're working towards increasing student achievement. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we're being successful. It's not going to be a magic program that we purchase. It's really improving our daily practices. And this new adoption of outcomes-focused governance has really pushed us all to do that and do that quickly.
Thank you so much. Now I'll open it up to the board to see if there are any additional questions.
I just wanted to ask about the summer program. Do we know which campus right now?
Yes. Madam President, board members, Ms. Pena, yes, we're going to be at one location. It'll be at Valley View.
Having one location will allow us to focus all of our resources and efforts there, and we'll also be providing transportation from the other locations. And it'll also allow us to save energy costs, because we know in the summertime, air conditioning costs are real at our homes, especially here in the big facilities that we operate. So that's why we've decided to concentrate the services out of one campus available to all of our campuses.
All right, so I want to thank our board members for submitting questions, and then to our district staff, thank you so much. We know that this work is incredibly hard, and so we appreciate your attention and your efforts. It's also really great to see that our resources are starting to align with our goals, in particular, the Superintendent Garrow number 3, where we are allocating our budget resources to our goals. And so that's really nice to see that we're creating programs based on the data that we're seeing and the gaps that we're seeing. So that's really great. And so we appreciate that. Or I appreciate that, I should say. The next item on the agenda is public participation, and we do not have any tonight. Oh, thank you so much. Sorry. He was waiting for his favorite person to ask questions, clearly. My apologies. Thank you. There's no public participation, so we're moving on to the next item, which is 4.01, the superintendent's report, and I'll pass it to Dr. Portillo.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, executive team, and Roosevelt community. I don't have a separate report for today, but I do want to present our top happenings. So as we've been doing further work, we've also decided to ensure that our top happenings are also aligned with our goals and our guardrails, which means that since this is the first month we've implemented, as we reviewed them, we only have two that we're going to be presenting for you today. Not that other great things aren't happening, but we want to ensure that everything that we're celebrating, that everything is aligned. So we will find we want to make sure we celebrate those other things too, and we'll be using our social media and other communications forms to ensure that we're celebrating those other things. But again, the board meeting is focused on outcomes. So you'll see two that are here today. And all right, so student wellness. Thank you. So student wellness, and this is guardrail number 2. The Student Wellness Department held a bullying prevention poster contest with the 8th grade students from Pasteur School winning at her art. I'm sorry, a student from Pasteur School won. Her artwork will be displayed across the district. The 23-24 climate survey showed that 50% of students feel their school is bully-free. The department also partnered with the Bush School to discuss self-esteem, diversity, and cultural experiences. The Lion Club provided free eye exams and glasses for academic success, and the SEL department promoted literacy with books on kindness and self-esteem. Additionally, social workers and counselors received grief facilitator training to better support grieving students. And we know that we did have a passing of a couple of one staff member. Just want to make sure we honor that today. From Sunland School, a beloved community member of our district. So Ms. Cynthia Araiza passed, and it's important that we have these student wellness teams prepped and ready to respond in today's crisis. Yesterday they responded as a crisis team, and then today continue to support the staff and the students. So I want to thank our student wellness director, Ms. Malika Wadley, but also all of the staff members that went to support our students during that time of grief. The next one is engaging students through taste tests. So this is again guardrail number 2. Our child nutrition services has been visiting schools to conduct taste tests as part of guardrail number 2.4, creating a fun and engaging experience for students, parents, and teachers. We love interacting with everyone and gathering feedback on new items for our breakfast and lunch menus, and students eagerly share their honest opinions and enjoy being involved in the decision-making process. I also want to note that a couple of board meetings ago, you did approve for our child nutrition services to attend professional development this summer so that they can continue to work on that guardrail number 2.4. And that's all that I have today.
Thank you so much for that. The next item on our agenda is 4.03, which is our REA report. Dr. Martha Thomas. Oh, sorry, just kidding. 4.02, board member updates. Are there any? Okay, yes. So no, I made a mistake.
I'm sorry, we skipped the board.
I apologize, Ms. Coleman. I'll get to you in just a moment. I got a little ahead of myself. So item 4.02 is our board member update. Any updates from board members?
I'd just like to share that I didn't get to share this last month, and it was so close to actually the date when I did it, but I was able to go attend Sunland's Aladdin production, and it was amazing. I've been ranting and raving about it since, just telling everyone like this school is amazing, and kind of pressuring us to make sure that we market that school as the performing arts school, because that's what it is really. But I just want to congratulate everyone who was part of that production, all those students. It's pretty impressive, and I do want to see us help them get a better sound system as well. Yesterday, I participated with Reading Across America at Bush School, and that was really fun. It was great to read to a 3rd grade classroom. Took me back to the days when I used to be a teacher myself. So it's just, it's been great, and I'm also really delighted to see what we're doing to really step up as a district to bring competition. That's the word I like to hear, competition, you guys. So I really appreciate that we are doing that and showing the community all that we can bring. Oh, and one other thing. this Saturday, I do know that we are doing a combined activity with Chick-fil-A. And there, it's going to be the dine with a first responder. And so hopefully we'll get a lot of attention there. They're going to have police, vehicles, SWAT team, helicopter and everything. And that'll be a great way to be able to talk to community members and see if they'll enroll their kids into Roosevelt.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pena. Any other board updates?
Madam President, I had the just absolute pleasure of getting to attend some of our campus showcases on February 12th. So I got to go to the Lassen Conchos combo, which was such a delight. I got to visit a number of classrooms. And my favorite moment of the night was as I was leaving, a little boy asked me, he was coming from Lassen and asked me if I was going to be his teacher at Conchos. And I said, no, you will have a much better teacher than me. And he goes, oh, good. And then ran into the building. So just like families were delighted and both principals were so welcoming. It was a lovely place to be. Got to talk to some of the teachers in the resource space about their wonderful students. And then went over to Campbell and Bush. And then I had a wonderful student who gave me a whole tour of the campus, told me about her older sister who she was so proud of, who's going to college on a scholarship, gave me all the lowdown on who the cool teachers are. So if you need to know, but just really exciting to see a place where students truly are the advocate for and the voice of the campus, and teachers who are so excited to be looking at those new opportunities to bring those teams together. I truly couldn't tell who was from which staff, and I think that was really reassuring to parents who are coming, and just getting excited to see all of the new mix of staff and students coming to those campuses. And then just quick side note, as at the schools I work at, I'm going to be teaching some 8th grade math as we get ready for ASA. So tonight's presentation was definitely lit a fire for me. And also I might be coming to find our resource folks for a little bit of 8th grade math support. So just appreciate that.
Thank you, Dr. Vice President. That sounds great. Any other updates? Okay, I'll go. I had the honor and the privilege of attending the namesakes celebration and recognition of John R. Davis during the last day of Black History Month. 3 generations of the Davis family were present, and we deeply appreciate their continued support. During the event, a student paid a tribute to Officer Davis's legacy, while another one shared her favorite memory. Community representatives are also in attendance, including a student from the Academies of South Mountain and one from the best high school on the South Side, Cesar Chavez. Just saying. It was truly a blessing to be a part of this celebration as we honor a pillar of our community. And it's also National Social Workers Month, so shout out to our social workers. Moving on, 4.03 REA report. Now, Mrs. Coleman.
Good evening, Madam President Hodge. Been wanting to say that for a long time. Governing board members, Dr. Patillo, exec team, my REA and RSD colleagues, and our South Phoenix community. I'm Carol Coleman, REA executive board member, substituting for President Martha Thomas. And we also want to wish President Thomas a speedy recovery. Currently, we have 357 members, and we'll continue to visit our campuses as scheduled. We would like to share some pictures of a couple of our events. Oh, she said, okay. The first we had is of our Educational Support Professional Days event for all of our ESPs. And we had that at the Highland Park on February 8th from 12 to 4 p.m. Members and their families showed up for some awesome and great food. Members who attended, it was a great event. And then also we just wanted to update and give the results of our ratification vote, 25 to 26. RE members who voted passed with a 68% of all of our members accepting. This concludes my report. What questions might you have for me, as I will try to do my best to answer? If not, we can all just wish and I'll do the best I can. Thank you.
So take it easy, board. Are there any questions? No, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Next item on our agenda is 4.04, reinventing Roosevelt, and I'll pass it to Dr. Portillo. As you set up. As a reminder, we voted on December 5th to repurpose some campuses to close the financial deficit and provide additional resources to students. The board directed the superintendent to provide an update at every regular scheduled board meeting. We can see your notes.
Thank you. Just need a moment. So while they work on that, I do want to share that yesterday morning and then in the afternoon, we repeated the opportunity for members of the community to see, to hear and get updated on reinventing Roosevelt and what the work that we've been doing, not only with the operations of our district, but then also as we're establishing a superintendent's advisory council to help us with that work. Yep. So we might need a moment. I apologize.
Do you want to take like a 5-minute break? Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break and be back at 7. Thank you. Much for your patience as we took a little break, and I'll pass it back to Dr. Portillo.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started again. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, executive team, and Roosevelt community. As I mentioned earlier, we were able to present to the community yesterday, twice in the morning and in the afternoon. And then we will be scheduling further other updates so that we can keep everyone abreast of all the work that we're doing. And I hope you're pleased with the presentation because there's been a lot of stuff we've been doing. Like we're not sleeping very much, but that's okay because we'll sleep in the summer or next week too, maybe during spring break. So, all right. So first of all, we just want to make sure that we're anchored in our vision. So as we always do at all of our meetings, again, we're a community united to create better futures for all through education. And this was important, especially in yesterday's presentation, because we know that we're leaning very much into community organizations to support us to be able to do the work of reinventing Roosevelt. And we invited everybody to get involved. Also, one of the slides was hidden here, but it was a picture of all you all and me thanking you all for doing the hard work that you did that Dr. Hodge already mentioned earlier. But it was a very difficult decision to have to resolve the structural deficit and address it rather than continuing to kick that that can down the road. But it really has set us up for a more fiscally healthy financial future for our district, which allows us to reinvest those dollars then in the programs and in our student programs, but then also into our staff, which you will hopefully be approving later on. I know you've approved the acceptance of the consent agenda, but you've got to actually approve the consent agenda coming up next. But yeah, we invited the community to ensure that that they know all of these different ways that they can get involved as well. And all right. So again, the updates that we'll be giving today is really around the transition committees, the improvements or increases that we're being able to give to our personnel, a little bit of an update on the facilities use, and then the facilities repurposing, and then some of the future programming that we'll be able to offer our students. So first want to let you know that we have sent invitations out to members of the community. Some are our parents, some are staff members, some are community members. We have some religious leaders that we've also invited. We've made sure that our original Reinventing Roosevelt committee from the fall has also all been invited so that they can continue to, if they choose to participate, continue to support us in this work. But also we've invited other members of the community that have offered up their support since we engaged in this work. We'll be meeting 3 times, and the role of this committee is to help advise the staff committees, right? Because we have a number of staff committees that are working on all the logistics and all the moving parts of merging the campuses, help inform, some of the work that we're doing as we are welcoming students to their new campuses, but then also as we are closing and honoring the namesakes. So again, that superintendent's advisory group of larger, not just staff members, but also parents and community members will then help to inform the work and drive the work of the staff committees. All right. So one of the meetings that we had most recently is the repurposing, a group of people that are coming together to help us repurpose Martin Luther King School. So the district leadership held a brainstorming meeting with the University of Arizona and other thought leaders. The University of Arizona has accepted to be the lead partner in this endeavor. They'll be supporting us not only with their leadership and the deep knowledge that they have of early childhood, but also with the relationships that they've developed already with different partners that are focused on early childhood. Also, we are leaning on them for some actual tangible support as well, not only their leadership, but they will be providing a staff to help have a receptionist at that building, and then also to have a portion position of their director, supporting us there on the campus as the director and the person that will be helping to lead a lot of the daily interaction amongst the different partners and tenants that'll be there. Other members that showed to this meeting, and I know we're expanding this group, but for this initial brainstorming meeting was members from the University of Arizona. We also had All in Education, Valley Leadership, Gather and Grow, and Booker T. Washington come to this meeting. Again, it was an initial meeting. They will also be supporting us through the future framework. They'll be supporting us to engage more so in community feedback. They've already started gathering some of that data for us, and they will also be supporting us with surveying the community as well, like boots on the ground and actually knocking on doors and asking for input from that community. So we're really excited for that, and also working on an MOU with Future Framework and the University of Arizona. One of the things that they have been able to gain for us is a substantial donation that will help us to have staff housed out of Julian to help be a wraparound service organization that will help when families enroll into to Julian, we'll be able to connect them and really understand what are the underlying needs of that family so that they can connect them not only with the services that are going to be offered at King, but services at a larger scale throughout the city. So that substantial donation is $130,000 each year for 5 years. And that's something that we're really proud of, being able to work with the organizations. They've identified that we need that support and have been really hustling to be able to work with them to ensure that they understand that we are a worthy group to support, right? So not only have these partners engaged in providing us emotional support through all of this, but they're actually putting money on the table to help us be successful. So I want to thank them. And then also I know that Miss Amy Marks being over there right now, and also Emily have been helping us a lot to be able to be connected with the everyday work that's happening at the actual campuses. So I want to thank them as well for serving on the Future Framework. Then we had a learning opportunity. So different partners and members of our executive team, we had the opportunity to go visit Glendale Elementary School District System of Care Center. So a few years back, I think 3 years ago, Glendale Elementary School District also had to repurpose their campuses and consolidate schools due to their decrease in enrollment as well. And they are, a couple of years ahead of us in this endeavor. So they allowed us to go and observe and get tours of their system of care center. Some of the services that they offer there are mental health services, social services, educational services, health services, substance abuse, vocational services, recreational services, juvenile justice. They even have a laundromat there. They have a closet, a very nice closet, large closet that has all kinds of formal wear as well as professional wear. There's so many services that they are able to offer out of that center. It's also a collaboration with the city. So they allowed us to go and have an initial tour. I'm really excited to be able to take you all in the future, and also members of the staff, more members of the staff as well as other partners, and also our councilwoman, to be able to go and see the work that is happening there and how can we best take that idea and then make it our own Southside idea, right? So we're really excited to go and see that, and I would love to have the opportunity to replicate something similar to that, but again with our own flavor at one of the facilities that we're repurposing. Also, some of you all were able to go to the showcases. It was amazing. It was exciting. I know at King there was, I had to park in the street because there wasn't any space for King and Julian. It was full. It was packed. It was an exciting kids were really happy. Families seemed excited as well. I was able to also go to Chavez and see the work that they were doing there. It was exciting. It was fun. And I know that some of you visited some of the other campuses, but this showcase of schools is important because it's our opportunity to showcase all the great things that we're doing, right? We know that there's so much that we're doing, and it's sometimes hard to get the word out because there's so many things happening. But one of the things that I think helped us a lot is that were able to have Ms. Mari Rabago, and she's in the center picture there. She was able to do FaceTime Live, right, Magali? I think Magali stepped out. FaceTime Live, and we know that each time that we do these FaceTime Lives with her, we get thousands of viewers. So that was exciting as well. But the staff worked really hard for those showcases, and especially at the schools that are combining, we saw great turnout. So I know at Campbell, we had great turnout, and we were able to enroll, how many? Yeah. So we're very excited. It was a great event, and it continues to be another way to get the word out. I did do a FaceTime live yesterday with Ms. Rabago also, and then really emphasized it was a summary of the updates that we did, but then also emphasized that it's important that families remember that they need to re-enroll each year. We don't drop them, but it's important because that allows us then to be able to staff accordingly and plan accordingly to how many teachers we need to have at that particular campus. So anyhow, that's another way to get the word out. Then, yeah, thank you. We want to just re-emphasize again that we're not only repurposing the buildings, but it's really about maximizing each one of those dollars. So as we continue to work towards improving services to students, some of the items that you have on your agenda today for approval is adding of staff members. And our International Baccalaureate program, we continue to work towards accreditation over at Barr Elementary School. And one of the things that we need to do is to add teaching staff there to be able to deepen that program and get through accreditation and be able to use the IB logo and naming, right? We already have many of the practices and continue to work towards that accreditation, but we would not be able to move into this next step if we were not using our finances in a way that's going to really help us to remain fiscally stable. So we're not needing to dip into so much into our reserves because of these changes. We were also, as we had promised, that we would have additional science opportunities at Julian. Knowing that their namesake is a Black chemist, we wanted to make sure that we honored that promise. So we were able to add an additional STEAM teacher over at Julian, and then also to expand those science programs. And then also we've had a request from our principals for several years now that they wanted to be able to have someone on their campus to pull small group, to provide intervention to our students. And we have not been able to afford that. So thanks to the changes that we're making with how we're using our finances, we're now able to have one full release teacher on every campus. And we'll be working on your agenda today is the job description for that position. And then we'll be able to delineate the parameters for use of that position, so we ensure that we get a strong return on investment as we work with our principals. But we're excited to be able to offer those changes. And again, we wouldn't be able to offer that in the past. Another thing is we know our English language learners continue to be a group that we need to help improve not only in their language acquisition, but then also in their academic success. So we are able to then add another ELL specialist at the district office. So not only will we have one that works with our students that are the most struggling, our newcomers, but we'll also be able to have someone focusing on our students that are ready to be pushed into or out of into proficiency and out of EL services on the Azella. So we want to make sure that we're really targeting the intervention and the supports that we're providing, and we're able then to add this additional EL specialist. And I mentioned earlier an additional math specialist that will be supporting with the upper grades. And again, those changes wouldn't have been possible if we weren't being really smart with the use of our money. All right. And another thing we talked about already several times is that we are able then to offer this $3,600 pay increase, right? So it was originally a $3,000 increase, but because we also are adding 2 days to 2 professional days to professional development days for our staff, then it increased to $3,600 for every cell on the salary schedule. So we are able then to, as we reinvent, invest money back into our teachers, which is one of the promises we made to the community as we were considering the reinvention and the consolidation of our campuses. And we mentioned earlier that teachers who have an approved area of math on their certificate will also earn an additional $2,500 in addition to the hard-to-fill stipend. And we also mentioned that our special education teachers will earn that additional $2,500, again, in addition to the hard-to-fill stipend. Bringing back the teachers back 2 days earlier than normal is going to be critical because, again, we can push into professional development before they start the school year. And then the rest of the days, we have negotiated with our association that the rest of the returning teacher week, we have 2 days for teachers to really be able to set up their classrooms and plan, right? But then we will also have 3 days that we can more so allow except for the convocation, because we have our big celebration on the Friday before school starts. But then the rest of the days, our principals will be able to determine based on the needs on their campuses, how they will utilize that time. So being able to add these 2 days makes it so that we're not all competing for the same amount of time. And then our teachers are able to know that they have those 2 days promised to be able to set up their classrooms, to plan and be ready for that first day of school, and also for Meet the Teacher Night that Thursday before school starts. The pay increases are designed to attract and retain our teaching staff, but also we want to remind you that we are also on the salary scales are giving increases to some of the hard to fill positions that we've had to outsource in our classified ranks. Right, so our paraprofessionals will now all be paraprofessional level 3, which means that all the ones that were below level 3 will now receive level 3 pay. And then level 3 itself has been increased by how many dollars, Ms. Alexander? Or
approximately $2.
Approximately $2.
Yes.
And that's a big increase for those that were already level 3, and then even a higher increase for those that were not level 3 yet. Our bus drivers and are increasing by, sorry, I put him on the spot.
Because this meeting is recorded, I want to tell you the right number. So if you give me just one moment, Dr. P.
Oh, they're getting increases that are significant. And then also our, as we look at our trades, and we had to in the past outsource a lot in our HVAC, our plumbing, all of our trades, we're able then to also give the trades level 3 also a significant increase. So we're really excited about that. All right, so we can come back and let Ms. Alexander share. All right, so then in reinventing Roosevelt also means redesigning these experiences for students, right? So again, we mentioned earlier that we're going to be able to offer the algebra and geometry classes. We also hope to be able to offer not only algebra and geometry, but also help the kids pass the high school equivalency test so that they can get their credits in high school. We talked about the master schedule redesign. And then also, as we think about the whole child, we already offer volleyball, soccer, basketball, cheer, track, and esports as competitive interscholastic sports. But now we'll be able to add flag football. And we're excited about that. And then year, but the following year offer softball and baseball. So we're really excited about that as well. And the next slide here. So again, the other thing that we are reinventing, aside from our sports, our clubs, extracurriculars, and then our academics, is really looking at something else that our community asked for, which is care, so additional after-school care. And that is something that we're continuing to work on. We are just about ready to put out for our early childhood a pay for participation opportunity for our Montessori program, and then for our general preschool students, as well as working on ensuring that we have some type of after school or before school opportunity at each of our remaining campuses. One of the questions that comes out the most during all of our listening sessions is from parents is transportation. So parents, not only of the schools that are combining, but all of our schools have questions and concerns regarding transportation. And as you remember, transportation was also an area that we needed to pay special attention to according to the Auditor General. So Mr. Kyle has been very, very busy. He's been focused on building relationships with our community. The listening sessions are and have been critical. He's also increasing that communication between the drivers and the schools to make sure that we have clearer transportation policies. He's also working on updating our transportation section of our district website to answer frequently asked questions, and then collaborating with the school administrators to ensure that safe writing procedures to and from school. The other thing is working hard on route efficiency and planning. So looking at any hazards or obstacles that are in the way to ensure that kids are able to get to school safely, but then also optimizing the routes so that we're saving on costs, but then also reducing delays and then ensuring those on-time arrivals. The other biggest transformation that we're making in transportation is the use of ID badges. The ID badges will be scanned so that we're able to track then our riders as to are they on the correct bus? Are they getting on? First of all? Are they on the correct bus? And then are they getting off at the correct stop? So that's a huge improvement and innovation for us when it comes to student safety. And I think that's about it for that slide. So again, just wanted to remind you that the transition committees, or that these are the staff committees, what they're working on is they're meeting bi-weekly. So this is different from the advisory committee that is community driven. The operational committees are meeting bi-weekly, and they're working more so on gathering input, of course, but making sure that we have the appropriate summer support to make these moves, making sure that we are looking at all of our furniture that's still in good condition so that we're repurposing that furniture rather than buying new furniture, and ensuring that anything that might impact students on the operations side, that we're being smooth and pre-planned for that. We have our principals meeting on Thursday, so I know that they'll be presenting there some of the details of all the logistics of packing up and moving things over. The next thing is our facilities upgrades and refresh. So we know that there's lots of great effort going into ensuring that we have bright learning environments for our students. So some of the things that we're working on in that area is on your consent agenda today is the job description. Actually, it was already posted, right? It was on the last month for the construction manager to help us manage all of these projects, which will take place at all of the campuses. But then also we know we have refreshing that we need to do, new flooring, new paint, updates to the grounds. There's a lot of projects. And again, we want to thank our community for approving that bond, but we also want to make sure that we have someone managing all of these construction projects so that we're able to do multiple projects at one time rather than relying only on the leadership of Bob, who works really hard. Mr. Lucas works incredibly hard, but there's a lot of projects to be done. So we needed that additional position. So it's posted, and we should be should be interviewing for that too. But some of the prioritized projects include restroom remodels, classroom reconfigurations, again, the fields and the playgrounds, and then adding areas for students to be able to be outside learning. So yeah, we've had a lot of work that we've been doing in the last month, in the last few months, and we continue to work really hard to ensure that we're returning on the promises that we made the community when we proposed the closures and the reconfigurations of the campuses. All right.
Thank you. Any questions from board members?
Madam President, I just have a quick question. Superintendent, I know we had a number of community members when we had our open events and community forums in December who said that they wish that they had known about some of these opportunities. How did we think about inviting outside of our normal kind of parent channel, teacher channel, community member? How did we kind of tap into that group of individuals who came to those community forums? Were any of those individuals invited? If you can just recap that, that would be great.
So what we did is that we were intentional about inviting people that had come to the different hearings that we had in the different meetings to yesterday's update sessions, and we'll continue to invite them to those update sessions. I also personally requested that several of them push it out to their networks as well. And then we did select a few of them to add them to our superintendent's advisory committee so that we make sure that we have all voices heard and representation from different groups.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping the community informed. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda items 5.02 through 5.16. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items 5.02 through 5.16 as presented?
I make a motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is 6.01, the purchase of the boiler replacement at Cesar Chavez Learning Academy with Pueblo Mechanical and Controls, total not to exceed $114,902. Dr. Portillo, do you have a few words for us?
Yes, thank you. The broiler at Chavez is nearing its 30th year of existence. And also when we initially changed and updated the chiller, first of all, Chavez is our only campus that works on a chiller system. But when we changed the chiller in 2021, we did not change the broiler. So what we're requesting today is not only to change the broiler, but also all of the connecting pieces, and want to use this strategy to hopefully be able to push back the replacement of having to have a secondary or redundancy chiller. All of our other campuses have a redundancy, meaning that should the AC go down, we're able to move kids to another part of the building. And because Chavez operates on a chiller system, if the chiller goes down, we don't have anywhere to move the kids on that campus. So we're having to transport them to other campuses, and that's a huge interruption to them and then also to the other campuses. If we were to move now to replace the chiller without trying this intermediary step, we would be spending millions of dollars on that chiller replacement. So the opinion of the mechanical experts that came out to see it is that this should be able to prolong that change several years. I know that we have to make priorities as to which buildings will be rebuilt.
Thank you so much. We apologize for the technical difficulties. Madam Superintendent, did you have anything further to say about the boiler?
No, but I'll be happy to entertain any questions that you might have about the boiler.
I believe that you were kind of in the middle of a important portion of this when you talked about the community asked about the the status or the maintenance needs of the schools during the consolidation. Sure.
Thank you for that. Yes, Madam President, members of the board and executive team and community. Um, we are in the process of prioritizing all of the rebuilds, right? And we know that we want to ensure that we are certain of which campuses will be rebuilt next with the existing bond. And we're excited that the community approved that bond, and know that we may be going out for a bond within the next 4 years. So we want to try this intervention, which again, the mechanical experts that came out were able to tell us that this is a good step to take before we replace the chiller, especially as we consider that if Chavez is rebuilt, whether within this bond or the next bond, that we are unlikely to build a school that runs on a chiller. So again, that's why we are recommending that we try this step first, and that we don't invest in having a redundancy chiller at this point.
Dr. Portillo, just to follow up with that, also the current chiller that was replaced in Chavez, we said in 2021. Do we know how long that's supposed to last for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So approximately 15 to 20 years. So we don't want to, at this point, we think that this is the best solution. And then we can reassess after this summer, if it's necessary to move in that step. But we've been assured by the experts that looked at our system that replacing the broiler and all of the connecting pieces will then create a situation where we will be able to prolong the need to have to replace it. And if we rebuild, then we wouldn't be replacing it at all.
Madam President, and then you might have said this and I just didn't catch it. How long do we estimate that the new boiler will extend the life of the chiller? How long do we? Sorry.
I'd like to invite Mr. Bob Lucas to the podium. Thank you.
Well, Madam President, new members of the board, congratulations, welcome aboard, executive team. To answer the question, it's not a matter of extending the life of the chiller. What it is we had the chiller rebuilt in 2021, and the boiler was left alone as one of the prehistoric pieces. And the problem with a boiler is it runs on gas, it runs on flames, and as they get older, it's just burns. And the system that's in there now on the chiller side, we can control it, we can monitor it, we can change the settings, and we can move things around. The boiler is basically on and basically off at this point, and we're having trouble controlling that temperature with it with the newer control systems that we have. They don't really want to talk to each other. You got the new versus the old. So what we want to do is, knowing that we have the chiller replaced in 21, 22, bringing the boiler into play, making it more modern now that we're actually able to talk to it, to control it, to make it do what we want it to do. Instead of cooking the children inside the school, we can actually moderate that. So what that does is it brings it into a closer time frame with the chiller, just a couple of years apart, that we can track that better instead of having such a gap like we have right now. We have many different years, like 3 years old versus the boiler is like 30 something years old right now. So we want to bring them close, and this is at the best time to do that. As Dr. Portillo was talking about, when we get to that point, if we get to that point with Chavez and we want to redo some of the buildings or rebuild the buildings, we don't know what that is, what that looks like. So let's get the boiler on